What is going on, fellow adventurers, and welcome back to the Revelry. On today's first installment of D&Discussion, we're going to be talking about how to stay engaged as a player and tips for DMs on how to keep your players engaged. Stay tuned. Alright, boys, we have discovered the topic and now it's time to discuss. So, how to stay engaged as a player.
Stay engaged as a player.
You know, there are times in D&D, especially for a late game, a game that's been going on for a while, when there will eventually be lulls in the narrative. You know, there will be times where things aren't as fluid and you have to improvise as a party. So how do you stay engaged during all that? One thing that I've come to understand, which is very strong, is to create a character that you're proud of. And if you've already made a character and this is, late in the game, you're not very proud of this character, it will show in the game. You'll be very distant, you won't like the class, or you won't like the race or character or whatever.
Or you just don't like the story beats that your character brings to the table.
That's true.
Yep.
And so, how can somebody stay engaged during this part of their story?
I think one thing that players can do to remain engaged would be to, if you feel like your character is like they were saying, you're not really happy with where your character's at or what they're bringing to the table. After the game, or even later on in the week, depending on how often you play, text your DM. Say, hey, I'm not really happy with where my character is at, and I want something more to come of it. Is there anything that we can do, as a player and DM to re-engage my character, to light a fire, so to speak, to get them re-engaged? And it's always better to before you decide to do anything, to talk to your DM about it, because we've all been there, right, where we're like, that'd be a really cool idea to do, and then you do it and you haven't talked to your DM, and it's sort of just like, I know I'm guilty of that in Joseph's campaign, and it was it just blindsides. So if you feel like there's a lull in your gameplay, as your character, just talk to your DM, because there could be things that are coming up that the DM hasn't really talked about yet that may pertain to your character, or it's a good time for the DM to come up with some ideas on how to re-engage your character.
Or if you talk to your DM about the wanting to be more engaged, sometimes if you speak to them, it'll help facilitate spark a inspiration for the DM. Definitely. To change some sort of aspect that he had going in the story that maybe he wasn't proud of or she wasn't proud of, and then it might help get everybody more on board with what's happening.
I feel like that just happened in our games when Logan changed part of his backstory. Or I wouldn't say changed, it was more of an open-ended situation mechanic in the game that your new character, Dithy Rambos, a grung artificer, Logan tied your new backstory, into one of his old plot hooks. And it was very organic the way it was done, and it was very it caught us all by surprise, and we're over here like, Logan, you're crazy for this. So I think creating a good character, a character that you will like, creating a character that you're proud to bring every week and get in the shoes of. And if you're feeling that lull, like they said, even sometimes speaking to your DM will give the DM inspiration to help you and flesh your character out more, or bring a new evolution to your character. And I think that is, I think that's happened in our games too, where we tell you guys something, and you're like, oh my god, that's really cool. You know what? I have the perfect thing for you. And it won't just pertain to you. It will have you in the spotlight, but it will also involve the whole party. So if you get bored, or you've played too many RP sessions where no combat is going on, and you're not a very persuasive or charismatic character, and you just want to hit things, this could be a good time for you to step out of that and do something that you're not used to.
So How to be more engaged or to be a better player. One other thing is reading the room. And when I say reading the room, what I mean is see how the other players are playing the game. Now, of course, you've created this character, it's your brainchild, you love this character, and you want to do right by your character. And that's perfectly fine. Like, that is encouraged. However, you have to decide if the decisions that you're making with your character are going to benefit or are they going to hinder the rest of the party. And it's on a metagame level where you have to make that decision, because it's not just you playing the game, it is everybody who's sitting at the table playing the game, and they all want to experience this thing that the dungeon masters have laid out before you, and it's unfair to the dungeon master and to the players if you go off rogue and do things that hinder the party or that cause strife, that cause turmoil in the group itself, and it can be really hard to RP all of that out, because there's so many conflicting emotions going on. So it's really good to see how the game is being played by the other party members and by the dungeon master, to understand if what you're deciding to do is going to cause an issue with the party. And of course, as we've said in the previous discussion, talk to your dungeon master about it. But just the main thing is just see how everyone else is playing, and I'm sure that this will be something that is brought up to the group before the session even starts, but before session 0 starts. Like, this is the type of game we're going to be playing. But just make sure that you are a team player, you know, and you're not doing stuff that's going to cause issue.
Yeah, you can't play. Sorry, but you can't play D&D by yourself. I mean, you might as well write a book if you're going to be doing that, right?
Yeah, you don't want to be stepping on anybody's toes either.
Yeah.
That's not fun for anybody.
Everybody deserves to have the big pro tag moment,
Yeah. So if you're the paladin in the group, and you're tired of Oath of Devotion, and you want to start being a Oathbreaker, don't start killing villagers, That might cause a little problems for the rest of the party.
Yeah.
Is Morgan an Oathbreaker now?
No, of course not. I'm Oath of Devotion till I die. I'm just saying, if that's the kind of route that you want to take with your character, coming back to the first point of evolution and creating a character you're happy to play, you don't want to put the rest of the party in jeopardy because you're being selfish.
No, you want to have your character grow organically.
Right. You don't want to become a warlock after being a rogue for 6 levels, and then your patron wants you to do some horrible things. That's not good. So just find ways to do things organically and not step on any toes. Right. So read the room before you do something.
Yeah. So another tip that we have is make a compelling, backstory for your character so that they can have an overarching, amazing character arc. I can talk for years on, all the characters that I have, swinging around in my head that I come up with on the fly like that. Yeah. But honestly, I mean, sometimes even not having a backstory laid out for a character can sometimes even lead to an amazing character arc.
That's so true.
For something that you didn't even have planned. So a good example of that is the character that I play. Her name is Echo. She was a changeling rogue, who, after hitting puberty, discovered that she was a changeling and was exiled from the Wood Elf village that she came from. And originally she was just supposed to be some one-off character that I was playing just because we were still new to the game. We had only been playing for a few months, maybe a year.
I think a year.
At this time, but it was still pretty new. We still didn't really know. We were still getting our feet kind of wet. And I had wanted to play a rogue originally in our beginning. But somebody else decided to be a rogue, and then I decided to try something else. I decided to go with the bard. And I was getting a little bored, honestly, with the bard. And so I talked to Logan, asked him if it would be alright if I could change my bard, and if I could maybe have the character go away for a little bit. Maybe he has to go do some soul searching or something like that. And then I can bring in Echo, my rogue that I came up with out of nowhere one day working in the garden department of my work. And hence the bush cloak and all that stuff that she had. And then...
You just saw a bush and you were like...
I saw a bush and I was like, that's it.
I want that.
That's what I want.
I want that bush.
I want that big old leafy bush. And what ended up happening was that Logan took it upon himself, the kind, gentle DM that he is, to fucking murder Agathon, my bard. Before all of our eyes. So yeah, it was great. But I mean, after that, after Agathon got killed and got teleported away by his future alternate brother, so a little confused on that.
That's time for you.
Yeah, it's time. And then Echo came out.
And what happened to Echo that changed her?
So what ended up happening was that Echo, originally I had no backstory for her. The only thing I had was she was a changeling. She was exiled because I thought she was a monster in disguise, when really she wasn't. She was just born from doppelgangers doing what they do. And she essentially didn't trust anybody. She looked out for number one. Mm-hmm. Typical rogue, angsty backstory, that whole dealio. And then as time went on, Echo came across a, we'll call it a symbiote. Some sort of black ooze that she didn't realize what it was when she drank it. When she touched it, actually, not when she drank it, she touched it. And it formed into her skin, and because of her doppelganger heritage, it allowed her to use the power of this symbiote to fight all the bad guys that we had come across. But as time went on, it turned out that symbiote had a mind of its own, had its own agenda, had its own wants, its own needs, and began to make Echo do things that Echo didn't want to do. Then came Aerith, my girlfriend's monk character, and my brother Nick here, his paladin Norian, who kind of took Echo under their wing. And showed Echo that you can be more than what you are. You can be more than the sum of your parts. Yep. And together through Echo's friendship with Bernard, Logan's girlfriend's character, Echo was able to overcome this kind monster. Of like this monster, the real monster that was inside her, which was the symbiote, right, that was using all the angsty bad thoughts that she had to essentially make her do things that she didn't want to do, and was able to actually expel it. And from there on, not really believing in religion, not really believing in anything.
Through the power of Bahamut.
Through the power of Bahamut. Yeah. Echo became a paladin, and this obviously took over the course of 4 years, when originally this character that I had wasn't supposed to be much of anything. It was just supposed to be this one-off character that I could play for a little while, a couple months maybe, then go back to being Agathon. But I ended up playing this character longer than I had played Agathon, and now it's to the point where this character is...
Your character for campaign 1.
Is my campaign 1 main character, and they have this beautiful backstory that's been fleshed out so well through organic gameplay and everything. That
your backstory is the story we're playing.
Yeah, my backstory is the story. And it's amazing. I love it. And it's like, I never would have thought that could have happened, but I mean, you don't always need to spend months writing a 4-page backstory. I mean, obviously it's great, it's good, because that gives you a good idea of what your character came from and what they need to do to achieve that goal that you have for them at the end of the finish line, Right. But it's not always necessary, but it's always good to just have like this arc. If you can have that arc for your character, the backstory will fall into place.
It's so
and
true.
You'll have your own hero's journey.
And also, don't think that you have to have a backstory. You don't have to have you don't have to come from some, turmoil and strife growing up where you had to fight to survive that gave you this, that made your character the way it is today. You could be a 16-year-old scribe who wants to become a paladin, and your goal is to become a paladin. Your goal is to go through the campaign, and sometimes you don't have to have a backstory, but if you have goals, if you have ambitions, if you have something to strive for, that can fulfill, your storyline, your character's arc. It doesn't have to be what you've come from, it can be what you will become. So
excellently
there's
put.
that as well.
So create a character with a compelling backstory for a strong, compelling character arc, or create a character with outlines and goals that you would like them to accomplish through the campaign, through roleplay. Nice. Alright folks, and now we're coming to the close of the character portion of this video, but we have 2 more tips left. So the next one on the list is take time to learn of the world that you're playing in, the world that the DM has created for you, the characters in it, and the lore around the story. So you don't want to come in to a new campaign with this well thought out character with a nice backstory, but it doesn't fit the story. It doesn't fit the vibe of the story.
Yeah.
So that's when, obviously, you probably will have a session 0 where the DM can explain to you this world, this land, and the type of campaign that it's going to be. You know, heavy fantasy, maybe it's a little sci-fi with like Magitech from Final Fantasy, or, you know, Artificers, that type of stuff where tech is a thing in this world. Mm-hmm. Or even if, you know, like in Critical Role Campaign 1, maybe there's guns in this story. So you just want to make sure that you know the world that you're playing in, and it's good to get out and learn of this thing on your own. Obviously, you have the cards that the DM has dealt you, but that doesn't mean that that's all there is. You could go out and find more lore about the world. There could be secrets, you know, that pertain to your character or the parties, or some heavily influenced NPCs that the DM has put into this story.
Yep.
So just make sure you go out and learn of the world that you're in, and also your party. You want to learn about them as well, because you're in the story together.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, one of the greatest ways to remain engaged as a player is to engage with other players, to get to know them. I mean, you may know them outside of the game as your friends, but you know, when you're in the game, it's a whole new person. It's someone that you don't know. You know, these players, if it's a new campaign, you know, getting to know the players builds a camaraderie between them, and games flow, you know, so much easier whenever you know, players are engaging with other players.
Yeah, totally agree. Should always it's kind of leaning into the DM tip side of things, but I mean, it's always good when the DM gives the players a bit of downtime, just to let them just be like, all right, what are you doing for these? You know, for however much time you guys are just walking around a town or whatever.
Right.
You know, and that gives some people good times to like have their characters role play together, build those stronger bonds, build those meaningful bridges and friendships that are so necessary for, you know, for these type of games.
Yeah.
In doing so, that also helps fuel the story along. It helps get, you know, the party jazzed for whatever's to come next.
Exactly.
Make my characters hurt.
Please don't.
Okay.
Alright guys, and so for the final tip that we have to stay engaged as a player during your campaign is probably the most important. I mean, the other ones were very important, but this one goes outside of all of those. And it revolves around you. And that is to get out of your comfort zone. So perhaps you're just a very introverted person. Perhaps you're someone who can't articulate their thoughts very well and get them out. You know, you can think them, but as soon as you start talking, you start tripping over your words and, you know, stuff like that. So things that you can do as a player to be more engaged, to get more engagement from everybody else, is to step out of your comfort zone. You know, go talk to those people. Go do things that your character normally wouldn't do, or you normally wouldn't do, but as your character, you know, your role play allows you to be someone else. So step out of your comfort zone and take your character to different places. Right? You guys agree with that?
Yeah, I totally agree. And obviously, I know saying it is one thing and doing it is entirely another thing. And, you know, it's easier for some than it is for others. I mean, when we first started,
completely.
we weren't.
Yeah, we were all very. We were talking as our, you know, as people playing a game.
Yeah, we were talking as my character does this,
Right.
But simply just instead of saying, you know, Echo goes and grabs an apple, you could always just say, I'm gonna go walk over there and grab an apple. Just simply just changing that my character does to I do changes, and it opens up many doors already from that point on.
And instead of being like, you know, talking to the group and the party being like, I kind of want to go, you know, pickpocket that guard. He looks like he has a hefty coin purse. Should I do that? Instead of doing that and giving your whole plan out to everybody else, you know, slinky-eyed look to the DM and just say, I'm gonna go over to that guard, and I would like to roll a sleight of hand. Or is it all right if I roll a sleight of hand to see what he's got in his purse? Because then, especially if you're a rogue or even a monk, and you chose sleight of hand as one of your proficiencies for some reason, who knows? It could lead to something good. It could lead to something bad.
Yes.
But, especially if it's something that you wouldn't do. So, yeah, say you're the monk, and sleight of hand stealth isn't really your forte. But you really want that gold or something,
They have the key to some vault you're trying to get into.
Right. Just step out of the comfort zone. And it could be many things, and it's hard to kind of give an example to it. But if you're the kind of person that doesn't want to talk to the king because you don't know how to speak, to a proper gentleman or to a proper nobleman, try. It's always good to try. And once you try and it succeeds, you're going to feel fantastic. And the rest of the party, not even just the party, but the players will commend you and say, that was excellent. That was excellent roleplay. You did a great job doing this.
Oh, yeah.
So, most important thing.
To speak on that, getting out of your comfort zone, when we first started the campaign, and Joseph had touched on this about getting out of your comfort zone, saying, oh, I'm going to have my character go do this. When we first started playing, the party that we were, when they were in a town, they would go up to someone and ask them a question, and my response as DM, because I wasn't comfortable yet, was, oh, they respond to you by saying this, instead of actually becoming that character and saying, in some accent, however I would respond. The way to get out of that, and this is what helped me, whenever I was at work, whenever I was doing whatever, I would always have these conversations in my head in different accents, in different, and even out loud, just in my vehicle without anybody around. I would do that. I would stand in the bathroom in front of the mirror, and if you can stand in front of the mirror and talk to yourself in a different accent and get over that embarrassment of watching yourself say that, if you can do that and get over that, you'll have no problem role playing around with your friends, because that was the hardest thing that I had to overcome. And it just brings another level to the game if you can engage that way. And if you're not comfortable doing it, don't stress.
No,
you're there to have fun.
Because this brings me to an extra to this part of the tip, and I just thought of it now, and that is, once you get out of your comfort zone, or you witness other players get out of their comfort zone and do something spectacular, it's going to make you want to do the same.
Yeah,
because you will get the same amount of renown, of admonishment as them. And you will grow, your party will grow, the players will grow, and before you know it, you guys will be, veterans or very experienced in this role-playing space. So just keep that in mind. Alright guys, well that's all the tips we have for you today in this edition of D&Discussion, our very first one. Stay tuned for the next video. We're going to shoot another one right now about tips to keep your players engaged as a DM. This video went on a little long, so we're just going to cut it into two. But that's more content for you guys and more videos for us to publish and put up. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next video.
Yeah.
Peace. Alright, test run, baby.
Hey yo!
Here, I'll plug it in for you. Hey yo, pee pee poo poo check. Pee pee poo poo.
Last time you had Danielle sitting right there.
I know.
Little camera monkey.
Yeah, so if you scoot... Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
How does it look proportion-wise? Am I not a massive giant taking up like the rights, like over here?
No, everybody looks
I'm
good.
just a massive giant taking up my immersion. And it's already recording?
Yes.
I just wanted to get that out.
You got it. Alright.
Okay.
What is going on, fellow adventurers? And welcome back to the Revelry. On this special episode... Fuck. Gotta get it out.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent.
Alright. 14, 15 minutes long.
Gorge. Fuck. Yeah.
What about something like, if you're unsure of what to do with your character, talking to your DM?
Yeah, that was the first point we made.
Oh, that was what you guys already
Yeah.
said.
So,
Then I have nothing for you. I'm sorry.
All right, go ahead.
And I'll be in the bloopers. Don't cry, Joey.
no, it's just my back's broken. That's all. Okay.